So welcome back to the Digital Symposium 2018. I'm John Maloney, and it's a pleasure to be joined by Dr. Bertalan Mesko. Welcome. Bertalan is a medical futurist and has lectured at Harvard, Stanford, and Yale. He's an Amazon Top 100 author and has been featured by CNN and the BBC, and is one of the most respected voices of digital health. So welcome, Bertalan, and thank you for joining us today at the Digital Symposium 2018. So let's get straight to it, if we may. My question to you is, why does healthcare need a trip to Mars? What can we expect in dentistry over the next decade? And how can our industry be prepared?
Wow, thank you for having me. How much time do we have for these questions?
As long as it takes.
Amazing ones. Well, I think healthcare is in the 20th century, while patients use technologies that are from the 21st century. I think the trip to Mars represents one of the most exciting things we will do as humanity in the 21st century. So by saying that healthcare needs a trip to Mars, I want to give the message that we need to acknowledge the power of technologies and understand how we can use them to make us better medical professionals. So yes, healthcare is a trip to Mars because we need to bring healthcare to the 21st century. When patients are becoming proactive and empowered, when there is no ivory tower anymore, when anyone can access information, studies, even technologies, when 3D printers come to home, when artificial intelligence becomes a real possibility for companies to work on, then we know that we need now a giant leap, not just a few steps forward. We don't need more IT solutions. We need a huge leap. Healthcare needs a trip to Mars. Answering your first question, about the second and the third, I think medical professionals have a great potential now if they learn how to use technologies, because there is a chance, there is a notion that AI, artificial intelligence, might replace us in the future. I don't believe in that. I believe that healthcare is based on empathy and the human touch, and as long as we have that, we have the quintessence of practicing medicine, and technologies are not meant to threaten this or replace that but to augment it, only if we are prepared to do so. So it's about now lifelong learning. As medical professionals, as dentists, we have to know how we can bring science fiction-like technologies into our lives and jobs while we can improve the human touch.
Yeah. So how do you see the patient journey changing in the main? What will be the main factors of change there?
Look, for 2,000 years since Hippocrates, patients had to go to a point of care. They had to go to medical professionals who knew everything. And now it's completely changing. One, because no one can be up to date when there are 30 million studies on PubMed.com, and there are 2-3 million come out every year. So it's physically impossible to be up to date by any genius medical professional. Second, the ivory tower of medicine is no more. Before only we could access information, studies, and technologies. We had a key to the gate of the tower. We let patients come in. We told them what to do because we knew better. They went out, and half of them complied with it, half of them didn't. Instead, now I think there is no tower, there is no gate, there is no key. So we have to become like a guide for the patients in the jungle of digital and health information. So the journey for them changes completely because now they start the journey at home. They become the point of care. By using sensors, health data, trackers, they can access information online. Through all these, they will become proactive, and they come for medical expertise, for medical help, as an empowered, proactive patient. They will be prepared, they will ask questions, and they will need us as guides to guide them through a therapy or treatment. It was a bit different before. They just came blindly to a conversation where they were told what to do. That not just changes, that needs to change, because we can only engage in better outcomes with proactive patients who want to engage in their whole treatment because that's about them. So but now all the responsibility is on the shoulders of physicians because we expect them to come up with the best solutions out of literally millions of possibilities. But it has to change because of the burden, the stress, the burnout. It makes it impossible to work like this for decades. Instead of this, we would need proactive patients who meet their physicians on an equal level partnership. No hierarchy, equal level partnership. I know about my health and disease, of course, because I'm motivated to do so. You are my expert in medical sciences. Let's meet together to solve a problem as a group. That's the biggest change for the patient journey.
Yeah. So that change in the core of diagnosis is an interesting one, but currently the vast access to information by patients sometimes leads to self-diagnosis. Is that an area that concerns and worries you currently?
it should vary everyone. The question is not whether it's good or not. Of course, we don't want patients to start self-diagnosing themselves when it takes decades, literally, to train a physician to be good at what they do. But we need them to be proactive, and I think we have to draw a line between finding information online and self-diagnosing myself and 3D printing drugs for my own benefit by myself at home, and just being proactive and empowered, and of course looking for information because I'm motivated by having a symptom or condition, I want to get better, and to bring that information to my caregiver and then discuss it. There is a very strong line between these two. Right now there is so much false information in the online channels and social media. It's so hard to use new technologies when you have never learned about using them, that of course patients now just fall into the group of self-diagnosis. But that's where we have to come into the picture. As medical professionals who have medical expertise, plus expertise about digital channels and technologies, we have to guide them through this too. So with our help, we can help them remove self-diagnosis from their system and just make them become empowered patients. But without this, the trend will still be there, but it will take much more time to get rid of self-diagnosis and such issues.
I suppose focusing on dentistry, but if we look across the whole healthcare platform, speed of change can be a great thing, but it can also be an objection for many people. What would your main thoughts be on overcoming some of those objections for clinicians and technicians if we look at dentistry and adopting those technologies? Because sometimes that can be a barrier if it moves very, very quickly.
I think that's the biggest barrier, rejection. And we have to be respectful for those professionals who are rejecting technologies or who are at least just a bit against them, and they're not so open to using new things. Because in medical education, if you look around the world, there are only a handful of medical courses, like the one I teach at Semmelweis Medical School in Budapest, where we physically train physicians, future physicians, to get ready for whatever technology is coming at their face. Otherwise, in millions of courses and medical schools, nobody's talking about them. So physicians today have to look at a range of new technologies almost every week, when medical curriculum doesn't say a word about this. And we expect them to get ready just like this. It won't happen. No. It took patients who are very much motivated because it's about their own disease or condition, at least a decade since the first iPhone, first smartphones, to get accustomed to all these changes. So we have to be patient with those who reject technologies, but I'm trying to give those professionals messages that if you start using disruptive technologies, it will be for your own benefit. It will go against your stress and burnout because it's easier to work with empowered patients. They have better questions, they are more prepared, they comply with the therapy much more because they understand why they have to do that. Plus, on the other side, I could just make my life a bit easier through the use of a few basic technologies like voice chat. I could just make sure that while I'm talking with the patient, every data is being put into the system, not me turning to a keyboard like in the old days, in the 1980s, literally, and doing that. But all this should be sophisticated and as smooth as possible. I understand that most physicians, most dentists today don't face the science fiction type of technologies, but the everyday IT issues that they face. By the time they start feeling what it feels like to be in science fiction, when virtual reality devices let patients go through a procedure by being on Hawaii, for example, when augmented reality will help dentists teach a lot of medical students regarding what kind of point of view they have and how they do a procedure themselves from their point of view, when artificial intelligence will help dentists make better lifestyle suggestions for patients based on millions of patient data. Well, from that point, when they feel science fiction in their real lives, I think it's going to ease their rejection against technologies.
Yeah. So focusing around the patient journey, like most of healthcare, dentistry is a very sort of personal and emotive subject for the patient. Do you feel that some of these technologies will perhaps remove the personal touch? How do we make sure that the patient stays engaged on an emotive and personal level?
I don't think that it depends on patients. If I don't want to speak, for millions of patients out there, but if I can choose between getting the right treatment or diagnosis for my condition, whatever I have, from an algorithm, a chatbot, or from a physician, I think 9 out of 10 people will always choose the physician, not just in 1 or 2 years, even in decades from now, because we are social beings, and empathy is reflective. So you might be a robot right now telling me the exact lines I want to hear. If I don't trust you because I know you are not a human being, I won't feel empathy, because again, that's reflective. So I feel like the loss of the human touch as a chance is coming from the physician's side. that if they start using, start overhyping technologies, telemedicine, artificial intelligence, robotics, then it might remove the human touch. But again, because of the pressure from patients will always be there to have the human touch. Plus, physicians to do their job well, they enjoy it because they help people, and you can only feel that through the human touch. So if you start giving out the best diagnostic options in your life, based on your expertise, to patients online, without knowing them, just seeing the information they provide you with, and then you give the right answer for everything, I think you will burn out in weeks, because without the human reward that you are here, and I learned so much to help you. Without this notion, the art of practicing medicine just deteriorates.
And I think sometimes with development of technology and certainly digitization, it can create a scenario where there's more quality time you can spend with the patients for discussion, which obviously is at the main focus for the patient.
That's the whole point of using new technologies, that now about 60% of an average physician's time is spent on administration. If you tell medical students that now, they leave medical school immediately. You don't want a job in which you have a romantic view about the future of your job, and then you literally fill out papers 60% of your time. These technologies come into the picture to remove that. I don't mean that take it to 10%. I mean completely remove it. My skills are not needed to fill out papers. I might be needed to provide expertise, to have my problem-solving skills, my flexibility, to look at you, and the way you come into the office is also diagnostic, and the way the first thing you say is diagnostic. I'm needed for that, and that's why I have lifelong learning behind me. Everything else should be taken care of by basic technologies from voice, intelligent voice recorders to artificial intelligence. Take care of the jobs that are repetitive and do not require human expertise.
Great. That's great. Great answer. Thank you. And my last question, if I may, is based around costs, patient costs, treatment costs. How will the approach and development of digitised healthcare impact the treatment costs of the patient? Can you expand on what this might mean to them?
In many ways it will, but let me try to answer this from 2 points of view. One is from the technological point of view, that new technologies usually are expensive. Although we only call them disruptive, it's if they're not just more efficient and more comfortable to use than anything before them, but they have to be cheaper too. Like the digital stethoscopes today that can record the cardiac and lung sound, or I can listen to your cardiac and lung sound from a continent away through my smartphone. You hold the device to your right locations, right points. The price of that is half than any analog stethoscope today. That's disruption, that's good, but not all technologies are disruptive that much. IBM supercomputer is really disruptive and amazingly expensive. So we cannot bring them to real use until their cost becomes a bit more manageable. Although, that's my second point of view. If policymakers do their job well, then they can push companies forward in this. We just published at the Medical Futurist Institute, a few weeks ago, we published a free report about the best practices about how policymakers adopt digital health. In that, we used about 30-ish examples from Denmark to the UK to the US and Asia, where policymakers show that they can bring science fiction-like technologies into healthcare without improving or increasing costs, but improving the clinical touch, but improving the chance for physicians to enjoy their job more, just by being sensible and conscious policymakers. I mean, we are used to politicians being very bad at timing, so they lag behind technologies. Now that's not acceptable. Because if they don't bring technologies to the market as soon as they are becoming available, patients will find a way. Before they couldn't, because there was the ivory tower of medicine, and the policymakers knew that everyone has to wait for us because no one can access those, but now they can. The We Are Not Waiting movement in the US is consisting of diabetes patients who found out they can create their own do-it-yourself bionic pancreas systems, and because the FDA, the American agency, only approved the first device a year ago. So before that, for years, they had been doing, artificial pancreas at home, not to die from a very low blood glucose level at night without anyone making a mistake. So because there is no ivory tower anymore, patients will find a technological way. Let's not wait for that. And if we don't, but policymakers are conscious and they bring these things to real use as soon as possible, then costs obviously will go down. Like personalized medicine is, we know, expensive, but cost effective on the long term. Because at this personalized drug for you might be more expensive than the one we create for millions of people. But by you getting this, You won't get re-hospitalized. You won't get out of job for weeks or months. You won't have side effects because that was made for you. It might be more expensive, but cost-effective on the long term. That's how disruption can help healthcare reduce costs.
Wow, fantastic. Very engaging. I know our delegates here at the symposium enjoyed your presentation very, very much. I think we could probably go all day on some of these topics. Thank you, Bertolin. Very enlightening discussion. You've certainly expanded my horizons and our delegates' horizons on the future of healthcare. So thank you very much indeed for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
So let's take another short break and we'll be back for some more discussions at Digital Symposium 2018.